All right, it's Dan, DJ Pockets, back with another experience you won't soon forget. And with me, I have Wendy. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Cicchetti. It's Italian, and it's pronounced like chicken and spaghetti. Cicchetti.
Cicchetti.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Chicken spaghetti.
Yep.
That sounds really good. And I haven't eaten yet.
I haven't either.
Yeah. And we're doing this via Zoom, of course. And you're out. Where are you? Where are you
I'm
located?
in a little town called Belen, New Mexico, and it's about 35 miles south of Albuquerque.
Okay. It was beautiful out there, right?
Yes.
I'm guessing. Cool. And the reason I got you on the show is that I saw a video with you and Landria, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name either,
Anka. Anka.
Anka, talking about astrology. And I've always been interested in astrology and actually went as far as to get a book from the library, opened it, and then quickly closed it. I was just like, what? Like, like what's going on here? And it was just I kind of know some of the basics, but maybe if you could talk a little bit about astrology and what it is for me and other people who don't really, get a solid view of astrology. We get sort of the mainstream view, and we could talk about that too, because that's an interesting subject. So maybe briefly go into astrology. What is it?
Well, astrology is actually a very elegantly and intricately designed system that makes everybody unique. And of course, it's more than that as it relates to the the configuration of the planets that causes stress on we humans and that help us to grow. People are really lazy. And if everything's happy and jovial all the time and Pollyanna, nobody progresses. And we only progress, apparently, from what I've seen and throughout history, we only progress through pain and challenge. And so that's the way the planets are lined up to create this rub that gets us to make better decisions. And of course, that's what we're in right now as a planet. The energies right now are very warlike energies. They are usually together, Saturn and Pluto, when a war starts out someplace on the planet. And I watched it for about a year and a half, seeing it coming together, and I thought maybe Trump would start a war in Iran. We didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
astrologers, that it was going to be a virus that would be the war. But that's what it is, and it's very accurate. One of the things that has created difficulty for people to be believable or to believe in astrology was the fact that whoever started it, I don't know, tried to pigeonhole people into sun sign astrology, and then they would put their little interpretations that fit very few people, in by the crossword puzzle in the newspaper, and
Right. Yeah.
advertised it pretty much like it was a game. It's not a game. It's very, very accurate. It's highly important that people understand it. You can gain so much in terms of who you are as a person, why you are who you are, by learning astrology. And then back in the 14th century, Constantine went in and edited the Bible. And in his great wisdom, he took out everything that related to reincarnation and to astrology, except one thing, which I'll mention. But
Oh, wow.
that,
Astrology was in the Bible?
yes, astrology and incarnation were mentioned in the Bible, and those were in the 45 books that were taken out of the Bible when he edited it,
Mm.
and those are considered the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay.
And there is reference both to reincarnation and astrology. Now, there's speculation as to why Constantine did it, but a lot of it has to do with controlling the people. If you only have one chance, you have to do it this time. You'll never get another chance, and it creates, control issues for people, and it's not accurate. I mean, it's just.
Right. Interesting because years ago, I remember people talking about astrology and, I'm a Capricorn and they would say stuff, oh, you're a Capricorn, you're this, you're that. And I was like, none of that matches me. I don't know where this is coming from. And then somebody would say, oh, that's your moon rising or whatever. And I was just like, oh gosh.
No.
So it just felt
Well,
like, a lot of like self-fulfilling prophecy kind of stuff. A lot of just like, oh, I don't know, if you don't fit in there, then they just make up something else.
yeah. Nobody is just their sun sign. And oftentimes in a chart, there are strong mitigators from their moon to their rising sign to several planets in one sign that mitigate the action of or color the action of the sun. So it is not atypical at all. I had one client who was an Aries, fiery person, and she'd had several readings, and nobody could figure out why she didn't feel that way. Well, I took one look at it and saw that her Aries sun was in the 12th house of Pisces, so it watered her fire down and made her more spiritual and watery. And
Oh,
once I told her that, she says, "Oh my God, that's so true." So when people start to study astrology, like you got the book and you open it, you start to realize how complex it is. It is so complex and so multi-layered that nobody could learn it all in a lifetime. Okay.
mm.
But I studied formally for 8.5 years, both my husband and I, until I really felt that I had the knowledge to really be able to help people. With a little bit of knowledge, you can be dangerous, literally. I mean,
Right.
tell people things that aren't true. I'm very cognizant about not planting ideas in people's heads that will create fear. And oftentimes the energy of it can make people scared to death. I mean, they don't know what to do. I've had people call me and say, I had this reading from somebody, and she said, I was going to die at this time, and I was going to lose all my children, and this
Oh,
and that
wow.
other thing. And it literally just tore her up. And I said, that's absolutely untrue. And I think for a lot of readers, there's too much ego involved in it, too much desire to be right. And
Mm.
so they push that agenda and say things that really mess people up. So I'm very aware that
How
you
long have
never,
you been, right? How long have you been doing this?
about 24 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A little
And
while.
I have clients all over the world. And how that happened was I have a daughter. I have 7 children, by the way.
Oh,
And my fourth daughter travels all over the world and teaches what's called the groove method. And she has, hundreds of thousands of people that follow her all over the world. And
hmm.
she always tells them about me. So
My mom, the astrologer. Yeah.
that's right. You got to have a reading from my mom.
So, you mentioned houses before. What do you mean by houses? What is that?
Well, the chart, the mandala, each person's mandala is made up of 12 houses, that cover the 360-degree circle. And each one of those houses is ruled by a planet and a sign.
Mm.
So if your sun sign, say you have a Capricorn sun, but it resides in the 5th house of Leo, it's going to make you much more Leo-like, actually, even than Capricorn. Yeah, the Capricorn will have a part in it, but it will really make you want to be seen and visible, and even subconsciously you're going to do things to rise to the top to be seen. So it just depends on, and that's why the birth time is critical. If you have the birth time, what it does is it creates the ascendant. Once we have that time, it creates where the ascendant is, and that it has all the planets lining up exactly where they need to go around the zodiac. And now I can do rectification, where we can come up as close as we can to a real birth time, which is really helpful to a lot of people.
Mm.
But if you can get the exact birth time off a birth certificate, moms aren't typically too lucid during those times of birth.
Right.
I mean, my 7, I only really remember one, the time it was born. If I hadn't written it down, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Uh, so any way that you can try and get the birth time, even if you can say that it was in the morning, or it was in the late afternoon, or it was at night, then it narrows it down a little bit.
Okay. So what's the process of giving somebody a reading? Like, what do you do?
Well, I have some very sophisticated astrological software, which is a real blessing for us. You know,
Mm,
back 20 years ago or 30 years ago, people were hand casting those charts. And that would take several hours. I mean, I can cast a chart now within 30 seconds.
right. Yeah,
You
I've
know?
seen I've seen one of those try. I think it was for me, and it was like it was math, it was science. I was like looking at it, going, "Wow, this is pretty
Yeah.
detailed." Like,
Right. Well, you know, people think it's woo woo. No, it's not. It's math and science. And it's thousands of years of empirical data that and anecdotal data that help us to see the patterns. Without
mm,
that data, we wouldn't be able to see the patterns. And that's another thing I wanted to mention about the Bible. Constantine took everything out of the Bible that related to astrology except for one thing. And he said, and Jesus said, or whoever was reporting it, it was in the New Testament, said, the wise men followed the star. Well, what were they wise in that they would know about the stars? Of course, it
mm.
was astrology. They followed the star. They were wise because they were schooled in astrology. They knew what they were looking at. And so they followed the star because they knew what they were going to see when they got there. Now, the Essenes were astrologers, and Jesus is an Essene.
Right.
You go, okay, who and why did they edit those things out? And to me, it was just control. The religions wanted control of the people. They wanted you to go through them and not go directly to source on your own. And that's what astrology can do for you. It can give you that power and understanding of yourself so you can go directly to the creator. You don't need to go through a middleman if you don't want to. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. But if you don't want to, you don't have to.
Right. To me, it speaks about, relegating astrology to some other, to the sidelines. Because if it's
Hmm.
not in the Bible, I'm not saying the Bible is, the ultimate source of
Right.
knowledge, but if it's not, if it was taken out of the Bible, then they didn't want really people to know it,
Nope.
in the sense. And then after that, it kind of became, like a Miss Cleo kind of a newspaper
Exactly.
type version where people think it's crazy. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, all the kings and queens and royalty and presidents and prime ministers are all using astrologers.
Right. Well, you know, um, I will happily do your chart for you and tell you why you don't fit the Capricorn image. I can tell you that right now. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm happy to do that for you. We can do it another time, but so that you understand yourself and you truly understand what I'm talking about, about the mitigators that are so important in a person's chart.
So back to the chart creation. So you have software where it used to take you hours
Right.
to do whatever it is you're doing. So you just press a button, or you just enter in
I enter in the birth data.
the birth data.
Yep. Push it in, and then it gives you the whole mandala.
Right.
And yeah, there was something else I was going to say about that, and now I can't remember. But go on, I'll think of it
Well,
again.
yeah, we'll get back to it. So then, so somebody's born on a certain day. Like there are people that are being born every day,
Right,
right?
every minute
And
of every day.
right, every minute of every day. And so the significance of you being born on that day, of that month, of that minute, um, that relates to the stars. I'm like kind of hard for me to
Well,
grasp that.
um, I think that, but I don't know for sure. I think that we have, as a soul, some control over that when we're going to be born, where
Oh,
we're going
okay.
to be born, what family we choose to come in. Now, some people ask me, well, okay, this is the time that I was born. What about somebody that was born at the exact time in the exact minute in the hospital across the way?
Mm,
And astrology uses latitude and longitude as part of the calculation. And then you have to consider
Oh,
Um,
of where you were born?
right.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
absolutely. It's all based, like I said, it's very scientific.
Wow,
It's
that's
all based
interesting.
on scientific principles, and
Right.
latitude and longitude. Now, if a person asks that question, you still have heredity and you still have environment. You see what I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
take that person that was born at that time and the characteristics that belong to that person, and then you factor in those other things, and that makes everybody completely unique. Okay. Now, there's a situation called the precession of planets, where they go back around to the exact positions that they're in every 26,000 years. And interestingly enough, that's what we're going through now. We're starting the new precession, a new $26,000, I wish it was, a 26,000 year precession.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And during that time, when we go through that transition, more energy comes onto the planet from the galactic center. And there is what they call a galactic sun that is at the center of the galaxy. And we receive a lot more energy from that sun, and all kinds of energies, different kinds that come through more strongly to all of us. And I think a lot of people are feeling that. There's what's called the Schumann resonance. I don't know if you've heard of that, which
Yeah.
measures the frequency of the planet. And the energies that are coming onto the planet right now are so much higher than what the normal density and frequency of the planet is. And that, I think, a lot of that has to do with what's coming in from the galactic center, but also the fact that people's consciousness is raising as a result of that. More and more people all the time are waking up to the reality of what's going on, and hopefully becoming more spiritual as a result of it, and not more angry.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
I have seen a lot of anger. I
Yes.
mean, all through my life, really. Just, people just look at them and go, wow, you guys are really angry.
Well,
Like,
what people don't understand is that anger and hatred and rage and aggression, those are very low frequency emotions. Okay.
yeah.
And whatever frequency you're at, you attract more of the same. And isn't that what they're doing? Yeah. I'd prefer to make sure every day that I'm doing everything I can to keep my frequency high and to stay out of all that stuff. It's just so unproductive. And as a result, there really isn't much we can do about it, as individuals. And even people who go out and silently protest and are being very respectful about it, they're still not making that big of a difference. You see what I'm saying?
Mm,
As we can see.
interesting, because why aren't they making a difference by going out there and protesting?
A lot of it is protesting the police and so forth.
Right.
And um, they haven't yet been able to change the nature of what our police have turned into. Okay, which is it's more military than it is actual, normal, like Andy of Mayberry, where we had a nice sheriff who'd come and he'd help people and old ladies across the street and take them groceries and that kind of stuff. We don't have that anymore.
Right.
We have, no knock warrants and militarized police that, bang down people's doors without notice and kill people who aren't even the people they were looking for. You know, we're not yet able to change that. And I don't think, or what I think is, as more and more people raise their frequency into a love based and joy and happiness based environment, where our frequency is high and we are attracting more of that frequency, then I think things will evolve and change much more easily. But right now, we're in the thick of the third dimensional battles, and then those that are waking up on this other side who are moving like this, and these people are moving like this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not productive at the current stage.
What do you see coming down the road for humanity?
Saturn moved into no, excuse me, Pluto moved into the sign of Capricorn in 2008. And what we saw from that was that, all the financial stuff, everything collapsed at that
Mm,
time. People lost bazillions of dollars in their homes and their pensions. And, it was pretty pathetic. But every time Pluto moves into the sign of Capricorn, huge restructuring takes place. Now, that happens every 250 years. 250 years ago was when we moved out of England, or the founding fathers left England, and they committed treason by doing it. They knew that. But they knew that something had to change. They could no longer live under the strict um, strictures of the Catholic Church, right?
right.
And the taxes that they had to pay and all of that stuff. And so that was 250 years ago that we created the 13 colonies and then the United States. Now, 250 years prior to that was when Martin Luther started the Protestant Reformation. Now, again, it involved the Catholic Church, right? They were the sole religion, acceptable religion, and he did not agree with that. And he wrote this very interesting paper about his views. That paper caught fire. And as a result of that, then the rules were changed, which allowed people to worship as they chose.
Mm.
And that's why it was called the Protestant Reformation. Now, 250 years from now, when it will re-go into the sign of Capricorn, who knows where we'll be at that time,
So no, when
as
you say right, no, when you say it goes into the sign of Capricorn, what does that mean?
well, the zodiac. We have the zodiac, and that's all of the planets and the signs that rotate the sun. Now, the signs stay in the positions of the zodiac where they were. How would I put that? First discovered or first understood what they meant. But the planets rotate around that, all
Oh,
the
okay.
time. Now you got Mars and Venus that go really fast, and Mercury and the sun. But then you have those that go very slowly around the sun and the zodiac, which are Saturn and Uranus and Pluto and Neptune. All of these go very, very slowly. So the work that they do on humanity takes longer. Like Pluto is just like a laser beam. It just goes in there and says, death of the old, birth of the new, folks.
Mm.
Just, we don't really have a choice. Things are going to change. We then have a choice how we're going to handle the collapsing that happens. Now, Capricorn relates to big business, big money, big government, big religion. And as we can see all around the globe, that stuff's getting really shaky, and that it's going to be dissolving within the next few years. Now, Pluto moves into the sign of Aquarius in late 2024.
Mm.
And so Pluto won't be really done with its shake-up breakup until then. But what you have to understand is the difference between Capricorn and Aquarius. Aquarius is all about higher mind functions, good ideas, futuristic ideas, things that will help the planet. Okay.
Mm.
Pluto is about destroying, and Capricorn is about destroying what was going on. And Aquarius is going to be coming up with really good ideas about how to handle all the changes and coming up with good things that will be better for humanity. We have been living in a time that has been unsustainable. And so this comes around to get people to start thinking, okay, what are we going to do to take care of our planet and to take care of our people?
Right. Yeah. This whole thing has caused people to look inward and be like, hey,
Yeah.
we might, you have
Uh,
to wait in line to get into the store. So we might, want to think about growing our own food and that whole enterprise being more independent.
Yes, absolutely. And there's and have been so many things that are produced because of money. Okay? They don't care about the planet. They don't care about the people. You've got things like Monsanto, who
Mm.
is destroying the food on the planet and making it literally so bad for the human body with the pesticides that they put in the seeds that, people get diabetes, heart disease, it just goes on and on. And the more, and they've studied this from when Monsanto wasn't going at it to where they are and what it's done to the health of the population. So you've got things like that. You've got greedy people in government with taxation. I mean, there are just so many things that aren't good for the people. And it's up to us to be able to look at it and decide what we are going to do individually for ourselves to take care of ourselves, because it's going to take a long, long time before the government's ready to really take care of us again.
Right. So you see basically more upheaval till 2024.
Late 2024. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the monetary system will change about that time, where they're going to put together a new global monetary system. That's what the plan is. But in the meantime, the financial structures are not going to be around the way they are now. And what we have to do is manifest through synchronicity. If our frequency's high,
Mm-hmm.
we're in a completely different realm. We're in that 5D realm. And there is so much synchronicity in that high frequency that all you have to do is think about it and you'll get it. Or thank you, God, for providing this for us. Bam, it appears. And I know this because I was in the fifth dimension for about 6 weeks in 1995.
You were
I
in the
was
fifth
there.
dimension?
I was. I'm
Wow.
getting ready to put a video together about it. It's a long story,
Okay.
and it had to do with the Course in Miracles. And I had been invited to take a class in the Course in Miracles. And, I really jumped into it and bought all the tapes and just started filling my mind with that. And what happened was this monumental, miraculous shift. Before I went through it, though, I experienced this like I was in a mirrored cylinder. And everywhere I looked, I saw myself. And it was so panicky. I remember just wanting to just run and run and run and get away, But then it was shortly after that I literally made the shift into the fifth dimension, and miraculous. It's just so miraculous. It is a place of a continual stream of love and creativity. That's what it's all about. Is love and creativity. And the video that I'm going to shoot about it tells you everything I created during that 6 weeks, what came to me and what I was able to create as a result of it. And it's worth the trouble, folks. Raise your frequency. Do everything in your power every day to be in a high frequency environment.
Right. Wow. That sounds amazing.
It was unforgettable. The other people that I have read about who have experienced it all say the same thing. It's like you'll do anything to get back there. It is so love-filled. There is just so much wonder in it that you don't ever want to leave it. And
why did you leave?
Well, I didn't do it on purpose.
Oh.
One of my daughters was brutally stabbed in a park in San Diego, and her face was slashed and stabbed in the back. And when that happened, I went from the highest love that you could ever imagine to the deepest grief a mother could ever feel.
Oh my goodness.
And it knocked me out of it. And I have been working tirelessly for all these years to get closer and closer to it. And I'm feeling like I'm getting very close to where I was before. And I think I had that gift given to me to be able to see what was possible, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and to share that possibility with other people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we kind of get into another subject, but this is fine. To raise your vibration, you're talking about love and creativity. So like people who are creative, who are just keep on going with the creativity, keep on going with the love. Is that what you would recommend, or what would you recommend for people who want to raise their vibration?
Well, what I do, what's meaningful for me every morning. You know, we're all cranky when we get up in the morning, kind of, you know. So I always come in and listen to my favorite music group. In fact, I'm wearing their t-shirt. And it's called El Divo. If you haven't heard of El Divo, they are so high frequency. They are so love filled that I listen to them first thing in the morning, and then it puts me at a very high frequency and where I need to be on the
Mm.
love scale. Okay. So everybody needs to find out what brings them, what elevates them. These guys do it for me. Oh my God. And they do it for so many other people. In fact, I was seeing on Facebook yesterday, this lady was wearing an Il Divo t-shirt and it said, "I don't need therapy. I just need to listen to Il Divo."
That's
Yeah.
great. That's
And
great.
so everybody needs to find what does it for them. But the point is, get out of the dense third dimensional, horrible realm
Hmm.
and pull it up and do. Everybody has to make those choices individually. You know, it's not something that you can say there's one pat thing for everybody. I do send links to the El Divo ones that I listen to every day to my clients, just as an example of what does it for me. And it was interesting. They came to Albuquerque. I never thought I would ever see them. I mean, they toured with Barbara Streisand and some of Celine Dion, you know, and I thought, oh,
Okay.
down to Albuquerque, I'll never see them.
Right.
And we were driving down the freeway and there was the billboard and it said they were coming. I rushed home and I bought the tickets. They were $275 a piece. I would have paid $500. Okay.
Mm.
And when we went to this concert, I mean, it was just one of the bright points in my life. But when the concert was over, everybody started hugging each other because the frequency was so high. There was
Uh-huh.
so much love energy. Everybody's hugging each other, you know? And it was so good to see other people feel the way I do about them. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, all of you out there, find what does it for you. And if Il Divo does it for you, listen to it every day.
It's funny because I had this experience where I was working in audio video for a school, and I was supposed to work this banquet and handle the microphones and stuff and play music, and decided to play this. I think it was like this five 432 or five something hertz uh, CD that I used for like meditation or stuff, and I put it on, right, just like kind of low in the background, and people were like almost melting. They're just like, "Oh my God, this is so great!" And a lot of people were like relaxed and like
Mhm.
like this one guy came up to me. He's like, "This music is amazing. What is it?" You know, everybody was just feeling so good.
Great.
It's like they were
Well,
high.
and that's what you want.
Yeah.
What does it for you? I just, you know, since all of this pandemic and stuff, and we made grow boxes and we're out, you know, growing our own food and stuff. And I'm just sitting out there in the sun and in these beautiful days and just feeling such intense joy by
Mm.
being so close to nature. I mean, that's high frequency, guys. Joy and love and gratitude, happiness. Those are all high frequency. And if you're doing something in your life that makes you miserable, it's keeping you in
Mhm.
low frequency.
Yeah,
Find something to do that you love,
I know
and it'll keep
it's
your frequency high.
right. You mentioned before, I'm gonna back up a little bit about Pluto,
Hmm.
and I've noticed past few years, I guess, Pluto has been kind of demoted as
It
a,
doesn't make any difference.
I know, as a planet. It's no longer a planet anymore.
I know it's silliness and people are arguing over things that really don't matter. It doesn't matter the size of it, whether it's a dwarf planet or whatever. It still has a very intense impact on the earth
Mm.
and on the people. Okay.
Well, it's
So don't
okay.
get confused by that.
All right. No, it was just interesting that they, maybe they know something about astrologies where they want to sort of demote it in the eyes
Well,
of
these
people.
are astronomers, and
Mm.
astronomers and astrologers are different. Astrologers use astronomy, okay,
Right.
and all of the mathematics and stuff associated with it, but astronomers don't necessarily use astrology. You get the difference?
Yeah, I do.
And it doesn't matter how they classify them, they're still just as potent and powerful as they've
Right.
always been.
Do you know any astronomers?
I don't, actually. Um, I do. My husband and I, we pay attention to NASA, you know,
Hmm.
and the pictures and all the stuff that's coming in, but I don't know anybody that's an astronomer personally.
Yeah, I just wonder what they would think about astrology. I guess it depends on who you talk to.
Individual, yeah, it's all an individual thing, and how much they've been programmed to not think it was of value.
Right.
Hmm.
Um.
But if you go, and I recommend that anybody do this.
Hmm.
Now, I studied with a very um, technical astrologer. I studied with another astrologer for 5 years, and then the technical for 3.5 years. And so I know how to work in a way that really helps people. And if you want to look at, go to Wendy's astrologyreviews.com and just read what people say about me, and not just necessarily about me, but about how the astrology has helped them. Okay. And my knowledge of the astrology. So there are probably, and I'm sure many good astrologers out there who do the same thing. You know,
Hmm.
there's some fly by night ones too, but there are good astrologers who do the same thing as I do. And everybody, um, you're drawn to someone for a reason. People come to me for a specific reason, but not everybody comes to me. They may go to somebody else who has other attributes that they're drawn to. And that's the important thing. How do I resonate with my clients and the people that come to me that want to resonate with that? Does that make sense?
Hmm. Sure. Definitely
Mhm.
makes sense. Let's back up a little bit, even further. How did you get into astrology? Why astrology? I mean, you said
It's
you studied for eight and a
such
half
an
years. What happened?
it's such an interesting story. I was doing interior design at the time in Utah and in California, Southern California. And I was doing a street fair with a designer friend of mine in Encinitas. And on a lunch time, we took a break and walked down the streets, and we went into this curio shop. And this woman came up to me and said, "Would you like an astrology reading?" And I blinked and thought, "No, I want a teacher."
You want what?
That's what came out of my mouth. I want a teacher.
Oh,
Now, I
wow.
had never thought about that in my life. Okay. That just came into my mind. And I said, "I want a teacher." She said, "You're in luck. I start my next class next week."
Oh my God.
So we started studying with her. We studied with her for 5 years. At the time, she was president of the San Diego Astrological Society. And then when she left, the technical astrologer that we were dealing with then became the president of the San Diego Astrological Society. So we kind of had the cream as our teachers. And I'm so grateful to both of them. One was Pam Champy, and the first one, and then the second one was Jim Chavon. Jim just passed away, I think, in December, and Pam passed away about a year ago, and a year and a half. And I miss them. I miss
Yeah.
them terribly. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so you had no interest in astrology before this
I'd
whatsoever?
always loved it. And from the time I was little, we'd sleep outside and look up at the stars. And when I was a teenager, I had a boyfriend for every star in the Big Dipper, you know. But I had never thought, okay, I'm going to study astrology. No, just
Yeah.
came right out. I feel it was a gift.
Yeah.
I feel it was a true gift for me. And so many things in my life have been like that. But my goal is always to empower people with the truth.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
astrology is like the effect of planetary bodies, right?
The
On
energy,
y-
planetary energies on the planet. Mhm.
Right. And what about the moon? What kind of do you look at the moon as well, or is
Oh,
that?
yeah. And the placement of the moon and the sign that it's in is very, very important because it has to do with all your inner stuff, the stuff that people don't see.
Mm,
And typically, when people get insecure, they go to their moon. I certainly do. I'm a Taurus and I have Taurus, sun, moon, rising, and Mercury. And, I love structure and organization. And when I get stressed about something, I start organizing everything in sight. you
right.
know and some people, it just depends on what your sign is. Somebody with an Aquarius moon would start coming up with theories and ideas when they get insecure. So it's interesting to find out what your moon is, so when you do get insecure. Sagittarius, when they get insecure, man, they want to travel, they want to go be with animals, they want to go take a hike. you know it's interesting.
Right.
So you don't
Um,
know what your moon is, only your sun.
I don't know that. No.
Well, we'll have a fun time together. I will enlighten you on all of that. And then you'll go, oh, no wonder.
No wonder. Right. Do people you got any great stories from readings that you've given people, or?
Oh, so many. There's this one girl, she's married and has traveled throughout the world. And she's in New York now. And I like my clients to keep in touch with me and let me know how they're doing. And after I did her and I did her child and her husband, it changed her life in terms of how she related to her husband. Once you know why somebody is who they are and what their proclivities are, you know, it makes such a difference on how you relate to your
Mm,
husband and to your child. You know, I had an interesting thing with a little girl, a little Leo child. Now, when kids are little, okay, they just operate on pure um, unconscious energies. If they're a Scorpio, the worst of the Scorpio, the worst of the Leo, or whatever. That's the way little kids are. And this darling little girl, I was sitting on the couch with her mother, and she was over here, and I was over here, and she was holding the little girl, and I was talking. And as we talked, this little girl's face came right in between us. So we couldn't see each other. She's a Leo, and Leo kids are 1, 2, 3, all eyes on me, and her mother would pull her back and then we'd start talking again. And that cute little girl would go like this again. So we were looking at her and not each other. It's just so fun to watch kids.
yeah.
Scorpio children, that's a biggie. Um, you have to be very careful with young Scorpio children. They don't deal well with being accused or um, someone being angry at them. And my teacher, our first teacher, had been a school teacher, and she said, be very careful with Scorpio children. When they say, don't look at me, don't look at them, because they need that time to regenerate, to get their balance back, you
Mm,
know. So you be real cautious. And each child has their own personality. And so when you have a child, and on my website at the bottom, I have all of the astrological signs for children, and you just click on it and you can read about your child and what the child needs. It's so important
yeah.
for all relationships that you understand what drives a person. And you
Definitely.
cannot change people. You know, a lot of women get married and they find this man that's gorgeous and they love him and they want to be with him, but they think, okay, he's got this problem and that problem. When we get married, I'll just love him enough and he'll change. Wrong. you know
Right.
you cannot change other people. The only thing you can do is change how you respond to other people. And you can change yourself, but you can never change another person, so don't try.
Right. That'd be a
And
great tool in the classroom where, the teacher
oh,
asks, back pre-COVID times, obviously, like, what's your birthday? Oh, you're a Leo, and
Yeah.
talk about like astrology in a basic way. You're like this and you're like that, and get out more in the open.
Right. Well, one of my goals has been to make it more mainstream,
Yeah.
that it's so helpful. It empowers people so much, which is probably why the people who wanted control got rid of it, squashed it, so the people would go through them and pay their money and go through them, you see.
Right.
And, but it's so empowering and helpful. And I have so many clients that just go, oh my God, it makes such sense. I had no idea. So many people have duality, like a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other. And once I can point that out to them and let them know what their brain is picking up from which side, is it picking up, say, from the Scorpio side, or is it picking up from the Taurus side?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell them what those energies are so that when the thoughts come up, they can go, oh, okay, I'm going to make the choice. I'm going to choose to go with the Taurus side rather than the Scorpio side, you see?
Mm. Aren't there
And
other factors though? I mean, there's got to be like environmental and where you grew up and
well, yes,
diet and,
there are all of those things
you
that
know,
do make a difference. And we see it particularly with children, with all of our toxic food that people buy in the stores. It really reacts in these children. All the GMOs and stuff are just so horrible for the human body, and the children really react to them, and then the parents don't know what's causing the problem, and so
right.
they get angry with the children when in reality they should buy better food, buy organic food, and don't
Mm.
allow them to have the sugar and the GMOs. That would make a big difference. And then find out what your child's astrology is. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can use wisdom dealing with how that child responds. And that's why, when you get into a family and the parents raise the children all the same, and they're not the same. They turn out different, and the parents start blaming themselves. What did I do wrong? It wouldn't matter who their parents were. They have their own path. They're going to do their own thing.
Right. It seems to happen with new parents when they get, a new
Yeah.
baby, and then of course the second one's different. They're just like, whatever.
Right.
Third one, even more so. Fourth one, forget
Yeah.
it.
There's no one size fits all at all, ever.
Right. But too
Ever.
often we see that in society, one size fits all, and
Yeah.
same rule
You
applies
behave
to
like
everybody.
this, and you have to do this, and you have to go to this religion and this school.
Right.
You have to get good grades, and you have to.
Right. And they only teach one way too. They teach the way that they were taught how to teach. And
Mhm.
if it doesn't work, then, too bad, basically.
Yeah, you're a failure as a child.
Yeah.
No, that's really bad. Really a bad way to do it. But
Yeah.
the first process to me is teaching the parent about why the child is who they are. And then you can use wisdom understanding that. Now, let me give you an example. My daughter, my oldest daughter, had her first daughter, and that daughter had Pluto on the ascendant, which is like being a Scorpio. Okay, when you got Pluto on the ascendant, Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. So that child had strong Scorpio energy, and it was when Pluto was in Sagittarius before it went into Capricorn. And that child was so defiant, and the mother was in power struggles with her all the time. That's one thing about Scorpio energy. It's like they want power, they want control. And
Right.
so my
Is
daughter
that is
finally,
that November, or when is
um,
Scorpio?
late October to late November.
Oh, okay.
And so my daughter did something I thought was very, very smart. She told Sierra, was her name, and every day they would get in this power struggle about what Sierra would wear. And finally, my daughter thought, this is ridiculous to go through this every day. Okay. So she gave her complete control about what she wore to school every day. And she told the teachers, she said, I disavow any responsibility for what she wears every day. And the teachers were they thought it was so funny to see what Sierra would wear to school the next day. I mean, she'd wear cowboy boots and princess dresses, and, it was just hysterical. But it was smart because she picked her battles.
Mm.
There were other things that were more important. And so when you deal with specific personalities like Scorpio, and they're the most complex of all, okay, Scorpio, um, there are certain wise things that you can do that will help your child flourish rather than always smacking them down because they don't obey.
Mm.
Use a lot of psychology. You know, it was Carl Jung who said the best combination to help people therapeutically is psychology and astrology. The two combined are unbeatable.
Oh, wow.
They really are.
Hmm. It's interesting too, because like here in this nation where people don't really grow up,
Mhm.
um, that that child who's still, a Scorpio grows into an adult, and a lot of that still remains. How much of
Yeah.
that goes away at all,
Mhm.
or it gets suppressed?
Um, Another story that I think is interesting, and this has to do with Scorpio. There was this man, and a cop saw that he was speeding or something and pulled him over. And when the cop went up to the car, the guy pulled out a gun and shot him.
Mm.
And he was interviewed, and the guy said, "Well, if he hadn't have pulled me over, I wouldn't have had to shoot him."
Oh,
Now,
God.
that is classic Scorpio, because Scorpio doesn't like to look inside. There's scary monsters back in there. So they project it all out on somebody else. It's somebody else's fault. And I have this grandson who's like a triple Scorpio. And, you know, one grandson came in, and that grandson was watching TV, and the other grandson came in and decided to change the channel. And poor grandson with the Scorpio one just had a fit, and he lashed out and started hitting the other one. Well, if he hadn't have turned the channel, I wouldn't have had to hit him. And you know, when you hear something like that, you go, okay, Scorpio. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man. That's
So,
hilarious.
you know, it's so interesting to find out how these signs behave.
Hmm.
And for these children who are expressing these energies so unconsciously, and to watch what they do, like Virgo. Oh my gosh, Virgo kids are just a riot. You know, like I have another grandson, lots of Virgo, and we had all these pennies, and he would put these pennies in a very straight row, and he would make roads, and he would make like garages, and he would take all the little matchbox cars, and he would put them in all of these OCD ways. Virgo is OCD, okay?
Mm.
And it's so fun to watch these little kids. They have cubbies that they like, and these things have to be here, and these things have to be there. It's just a hoot to watch them.
That's is Virgo September? September.
Yes. Hmm. Hmm.
All
Late,
right.
late August and to late September. Hmm.
Yeah, I know a couple people like that.
Well, the two OCD signs are Scorpio and Virgo. And if you get people who have both, and I have a daughter who has both, they are so OCD. It's like Sleeping with the Enemy, that movie. Remember that? And
Yeah.
with Julia Roberts.
Okay.
And anyway, then the husband was the OCD that had to have all the towels exactly the same way, you know, and he's very adhesive. And my daughter, who's Scorpio Virgo, I went to her place for Thanksgiving about 3 years ago, and she said, "Mom, I'm losing my mind. This Scorpio stuff, I am absolutely losing my mind." She said, normally in her cupboards, all of the cans have to have the stuff facing forward. Okay. They can't be messed up. All right. Everything has to be just like that. And so she said, "I try and trick my brain, Mom, and I mess them all up. And then I leave the house and go to a movie." And she said, "I cannot think of anything. I can't even pay attention to the movie until I go home and straighten all those cans."
Oh my God.
That's how compulsive obsessive it is, you know? And,
Wow.
but once people know why they do it, at least they can recognize that there's really nothing wrong with them. Those are just the challenges, and every sign has challenges that come through with certain signs, you know. And
Right.
once you know what your challenges are, then it's helpful to really be able to move forward and shift those if you can,
Right. Yeah, you got to
especially
know.
if they become, how do we put it, if they become where they make your life unmanageable,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
You got to know where you're at so you can
Right.
either change it or
Exactly.
not
Right.
if you want to. Well, this has been great. I want to take up too much of your time. It's been almost an hour or so. If people want to contact you, what would they do?
um, you can email me at consult at wendycicchetti.com,
Okay.
and that's Cicchetti, Cicchetti, like chicken and spaghetti.
Chicken and
And you can
spaghetti.
go to my website, which is twixtearthandsky.com. Now,
Twix.
during the pandemic, I have on selected readings, they're 50% off, and I'll keep that way, you know, until this pandemic craziness is over.
Right. Well, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for your time, and stick around. We can chat.
Okay.
All right. Hold on a second. Let me